And to do that, we're going to be using Pelly's sprite-data extension. So to add an extension, you go down to the advanced category, you click extensions, and then scroll down to arcade-sprite-data, which is this duck. Click on the extension and it'll reload your editor. And if you go into sprites, you'll see that there's a new group in this drawer that says data. And there's a bunch of blocks here. Cool. So to start with, what is the theme of our game? What's our, like, I don't know, setting?
All right, we got to do something we've never done before.
Okay.
So what if you're an archer and you're shooting at, I don't know, something coming to get you, orcs or something. Sort of a space destroyer, but like, you know, Lord of the Rings.
Okay, so like a medieval sort of.
Yeah, just one idea.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so what do archers? So I'm dragging out our basic starting blocks, which is we create a player sprite, and then we're going to move it with buttons. So what sorts of things do you think an archer shoots? Our archer is going to shoot.
Could be apples. Classic archer target.
Axes. They could throw axes. It's a classic fantasy thing.
Our archer throws axes?
I mean, it doesn't sound dumber than throwing apples.
No, I was saying shooting at.
Oh.
I assume that the archer shoots arrows.
Gotcha. Okay.
Once again, Shannon proves that she is the best artist.
What? How is this proof of anything?
I mean, it's a Robin Hood cap, right?
It is.
I got that immediately.
All right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Looks like the stream is having trouble. I started the recording though, so we should be good to go.
All right. Should I recap once again, or?
Sure. Just real quick.
All right. So for those of us joining us on the video, just in case the first half of the stream, first chunk of work, today we're making a game where the enemies have lives. So set the background color. I've made our player character, who is going to be an archer, and the archer will be things. So I'm going to go to controller, drag out this A button pressed, and on A button pressed, I'm going to create a projectile from the archer. And this is going to be an arrow. And an arrow. So do we settle on what the archer's shooting?
So I think it could be, so one option is orcs.
One option is orcs.
My option was apples, but it only really makes sense if there's people under the apples. I don't think archers shoot loose apples all that often. And also,
you know, they could have a stack of apples on their head, and that represents their number of lives. So you have to shoot down all the apples.
That's fun. I like that.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I've gone over kind of the projectile from block before, but just a quick summary. Projectile from the archer, so it starts out from the archer position with Vx equals 50, Vy equals 100, which makes it go diagonally down. So we want to set the Vy to 0. Well, you know, he's in training. There we go. Make them a little bit faster. That feels pretty good, huh?
That looks good.
Yeah. So let's make some enemies. So we're gonna do, go into the game jar, pull out this on-game update every second, and we will make an enemy sprite.
Oh, okay, here's an idea. So we use the apples to indicate the lives, right? And we put just like a person under the apple, and if you hit the person, you lose points. Ooh. And like they get a frowny face and walk off screen because everyone's okay. But you want to hit the apples, and when you hit the apples, the stack gets shorter.
Okay, cool. So then I think we're gonna need 2 sprites, one for the apples and one for like the person, so that we can have two different things happen when you hit each one. Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so I'm gonna start with just 1 apple and 1 person, and then we'll see how to like increase that to multiple lives. We have an apple, but it's a very big apple.
Yeah, also everyone thinks it's a tomato.
I'm just gonna make this guy like a bunch smaller. It'll be fine.
For anyone who was wondering, that is an apple, it is not a tomato. There are multiple fruits that are red and circular.
Yes, but we only have 1, and it's an apple.
It could also be a watermelon that you remove the rind from.
Yeah, that's true. A peeled watermelon.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite.
Favorite summertime treat.
So we're making a bunch of apples. They're all in the same place. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller even. Cool. And the apples will be coming at you from the right side of the screen. So I'm going to set the target. I guess I'll rename this. I'm going to set the velocity X to be the opposite of the arrow, I guess. So arrow is 100. The X here will be -100. And then the last thing to do is to change the position so that it's on the far side of the screen. Actually, 2 more things to do. So first I'm going to set the X to be the screen width, so it's on the far side of the screen. And then I'm going to set the Y to be a random number between 0 and the screen height. So, cool, bunch of apples. And then the last thing to do is to destroy these apples once they're projectiles. So no, these are not projectiles. These are projectiles. So the last thing to do is to destroy the apple when it goes off of the screen. And does someone want to talk about why we do that?
Sure. Yeah. So, or Daryl, you can go if you want.
Go for it.
All right. So we're programming right now on a computer with browser, which means that it has enough memory that this probably isn't a problem. But if you were to take this program and put it onto hardware, and by hardware we're referring to things like the Adafruit Pi Gamer or other boards that support arcade. Shannon's got them up on screen. They have much less memory than your computer does. And so it's pretty easy to run out if you don't get rid of the sprites. So it's important to note that even if the sprite isn't being shown, even if it's not on screen, it still has things like physics that are applied to it. So the apples are still moving, just kind of infinitely off to the left direction. So even on a computer, this will eventually start slowing down because we're going to have to, do the physics for every single apple. And they'll never get destroyed once they're out of the line of sight of the player.
Cool, yeah, thanks, Richard. Sweet, so I went into sprites. I grabbed this set sprite stay in screen, which holds all of the different sprite flags. And then here you select auto destroy and you turn it on. That will destroy the apples as soon as they are out of this camera frame. And so next I'm going to destroy the apples when they're hit by an arrow. So into sprites, drag out an on-sprite of kind player, overlaps other sprite, and set the other kind to enemy. And then we're going to destroy the enemy and we're going to give ourselves 1 point. Oh, shoot, not player, projectile. There we go. Cool. So this is our base game. Oh, and then I'm going to do the person underneath the apple. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen this game before. It wasn't arrows, but
yeah.
we've made this kind of base game many times on the stream so far.
Yes. Shoot. So this is a thing we run into that Richard's talked about before on stream, which is you can't have the same name for the sprite kind and the variable. So if this sprite is going to be our friend, who we don't want to hit, then the variable name has to be the friend. Okay, so let me adjust this so that I know what size.
I'm gonna guess 8 by 10. Oh no, you counted it properly.
9 by 11, I think. Close enough. Sweet. So I'll make this one also 9. And draw another person.
So if anyone is wondering why we're shooting apples off of heads, go read the story of William Tell.
Why did he do it? I don't.
Yeah, you know, I don't remember. I think it was something about trust. I
thought this was like a performance act, you know, done just in sort of circus shows or something.
I think it's mainly a reference to William Tell, though I do not claim to be a expert on the matter.
This is distinct enough from our player, right? Our player's got a cool hat.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Yeah, we could give him a different color shirt, maybe. I don't know.
We should. Yes, that is a good call. There we go. So I'm just going to put one of these underneath each apple. So to do that, let's copy all of the velocity code and the auto destroy code, which we're going to be doing this thing for with a friend, and then I'm going to save this position in a variable so that I can reuse it for the friend. So
you could also just get the enemy Y straight from the sprite property.
Oh, yes, that's true. That's probably better. All right, so here instead I'm going to grab the position of the apple and then I'm just going to subtract some amount from it.
You could also set the top of the friend to the bottom of the apple.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes, good call. All right.
So just a quick update. I did look up the story of William Tell. He was refusing to bow to an Austrian diplomat who then, as punishment, told him to shoot an apple off of his child's head.
What? So he wouldn't bow, but he would do the shooting off of his child's head.
He had to.
But he didn't have to bow.
What if he missed on purpose?
Not specified. I assume he'd go to jail. I don't know.
So he hit the apple, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Shannon, this looks awesome.
Yeah, so doing what Daryl and Richard said, which is to set the top of the friend, so that's the very top of the friend's head, to the bottom of the apple, so that lines them up, and then I've moved the friend X position to the end of the screen. And then we're going to, I think, let's see. So for now, if you accidentally hit your buddy, I think they're just gonna walk off screen, and we can figure out maybe other punishments later.
Remove 5 points.
Remove 5 points. All right.
And they can curse at you.
Hey, this is a PG stream, Daryl. Keep it clean.
It'll be symbols.
Here. And then I'll just
set the velocity so that it's going up.
Yeah, I need to also set the velocity of the associated apple. Well, let's just try this for now, and we can see. Set. Cool. So I'm going to set the friend velocity to be straight up, so they're leaving. They're not having a good time anymore. All right, so if I hit the apple goes away. Oh, and if I hit a friend, the friend leaves.
You should probably make it so that the arrows get destroyed when you hit something.
Yes. Yeah, rocking a negative 149. Yeah, so the problem is if we don't destroy the arrow will continue through, it'll overlap multiple times, and it will also continue through the friend or the apple and hit whatever is behind.
Yep. So if you ever find that you're accidentally getting 100 points in your game, check your overlap codes, because the overlap event will run once per frame where the overlap is still happening. So if you don't destroy one of the sprites, it'll just keep happening. And we run at 30 frames per second, so sometimes you can end up racking up a lot of overlaps and a lot of points or negative points. I think it would be pretty fair to slow down everybody. So keep the arrow and like William Tell's speed, the archery speed, but like slow down the friends and apples. I think it's a little too hard right now.
All right, let's try 60. Thing I could do, I don't know, I can't tell. I could do if a friend overlaps an apple, we destroy that apple. I don't know if that will always be true.
The other thing you can do is whenever you create an apple, give it an ID, and then set the ID for the friend too, and then go and delete it.
Yes,
so we
but then I go over every apple to find the right one, right?
Yeah. We're talking like a maximum of like 4 apples, so it's not gonna...
Sure. All right, cool. So this is from the Sprite Data extension, which was written by Pelly, one of the other members of our team. You may know him from the, all of the streams this morning. Yeah.
So Pelly does multiple arcade streams. And, well, not arcade, but, well, yes, arcade, but also Minecraft and Microbit, I think.
Yes, Microbit, Minecraft, arcade, yeah.
And he does the Digital All-Star streams, which we do with various athletes in partnership with the Microsoft Retail stores.
Yeah, I think there's one tomorrow.
Probably.
With an NBA player?
Again, probably.
Cool. So the plan right now is we're going to assign an ID to the apple, and we're going to assign a matching ID to this friend. And then when we hit the friend, we're going to find the apple with the right ID and destroy it. So I'm making a current ID variable. I set it to 0. And then in here, I'm going to drag this current ID variable out and set the Apple ID to whatever our current ID is. Set the same thing on the friend, and then I'm going to increment the ID by 1. So that way the ID.
All of the IDs are unique. Oh, sorry. I was just saying.
Go for it.
So this only works if all of the IDs are unique, which is why we need to increment it each time. If there were 2 apples that were both named 0, we would have a hard time trying to figure out which one is right.
Cool. So then in this overlaps, we're going to go through every apple that currently exists on screen. So I go into arrays, I grab out this array of sprites of kind, and the apples are of kind enemy. And then for each one, I'm going to check to see if the ID on the apple, so sprite data get go. If the friend ID, which is a number, matches the value, which is the current apple that we're iterating over, then we will destroy this apple. Cool. All right, so let's give this a shot. Yeah, there we go.
Perfect. I mean, not perfect. You're losing a lot of points right now. But.
Yes. Oh,
Pretty
man.
sloppy shooting.
Yeah, I would just bow, I think, would be my course of. So now let's add lives to these apples. So I'm going to, let's see. So I think my plan is I'm going to randomly pick a number between 1 and 3. And then based on that number, I'm going to change how we're drawing the apple sprite. And then I'm going to set the lives on that apple. Is that?
That one's good.
Cool.
So are you going to have an array of apple images?
I was going to maybe use, let's see. We have like a clone. Do we not have a clone in? Yes, I'm going to do an array of images. We have no way to copy.
We do have a clone, but we don't have something for drawing an image onto an image.
Yeah, all right, cool. So let's just do this then. So here I'm going to make a new variable called apple images, and let's see. So I think the thing we want is we want to be increasing the number of apples in each as we, increase the index. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, we have no copy paste. That's fine.
You put the nicest apple on top, because that's the one everyone's going to see.
Actually, that's a great idea. I'm just going to
couldn't you just, when you know how many apples you want, you just loop over and create that many sprites?
But what would happen if you shot the middle sprite on a stack of 3 apples?
Then you would find the associated sprite by ID, decrement its life, and then re-render. Yeah, I know it's complicated. Sorry.
I think this way you have fewer things to keep track of, slightly. But yeah, I think like another way you could do it is to assign all of the apples to the right ID, destroy all of them, and then just regenerate them when you.
Any ways to skin that cat? I always hated that phrase, actually. Cats are
Mhm.
so good.
Yeah, I was gonna say noted cat lover who's made multiple videos
Cat-based
about
games.
cat-based.
Probably the #1 cat apologist on our team in terms of cat content produced.
That's
I think that's true. Although Mina made a bunch of great cat sprites.
yeah. I've made a lot of games with the cat sprites.
All right, so here's stacks of apples, and here I'm going to pick. I'm going to set make a variable. I'm going to call it lives, just in keeping with like the theme. And I go into math, and I'm going to pick a random number between 1 and 3.
Yep. So the random number block, the pick random, is inclusive in programming terms, which means that in the possible values for this pick random 1 to 3 are 1, 2, and 3. A lot of times in programming, you'll have like the upper bound be exclusive, so the possible values be 1 and 2, but we make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and then let's see. So I'm going to set the image to the corresponding image from the array. The thing to note is that our arrays start from 0. So this is 0, 1, 2. So I'm going to be doing the lives minus 1 to get the image that we want. List. This is Apple images. Cool. So there's 2, there's 1, there's 3. Perfect. And the next thing to do is to actually save the number of lives on this apple. So I'm going to add another property to the sprite data, and it's going to be called lives. And I'm going to set that to lives. Great. And then just to sort of show that we are actually setting this, I'm just going to have the sprite say the number of lives that it has. All right, so the any sprite will say how many lives we've added to it. Let's see. Yep. 1, 2, and off screen. 3, perfect. So each sprite knows how many lives it has. And so based on that information, we're going to decide whether we want to, strictly decrease the number of lives or destroy the sprite altogether. So you get 1 point always for hitting the apple, and then we're going to set the. Let's see. Oh, cool. Yeah. So we can change the number of lives on this apple by -1. And I guess I will also in here just check to see if we should destroy it or redraw.
Sounds good.
Cool. So you always get a point, and then if the number of lives is equal to 0, so enemy lives equals 0, we destroy the sprite altogether. Otherwise, we have to redraw. So I'm just going to set the image of the sprite to whatever the appropriate image in our apple array is. So we're going to set the other sprite image to
probably be one less than the lives. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Oh, dragged it into a. And this isn't going to be our lives variable because the lives variable refers to something in the game update. This is going to be the other sprite, the lives stored in the data. So cool. So let's give this a shot.
Good pun.
Yeah, I've been like repressing saying that every time that she said good shot so far.
Cool. So okay, so it looks like it is changing the number, the image correctly. The last thing we need to do is reposition.
You could remember the old bottom and then at the bottom set the new bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised it's keeping the top position. Given that the height is also.
Yeah, I don't know. Joey would probably know the answer to that.
We usually reference on the top left, don't we? So I'd imagine, you know, shrinking image kind of shifts up.
But the XY is. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Internally, we use the top left. The XY is just what we give. Yeah.
Cool. That makes sense. So yeah, let's do Daryl's idea. We're just gonna save the bottom of the sprite and we'll just set it to whatever the correct position is. So one here.
You don't need to do it as a data because you can just read the bottom, put it in a variable, and then change the image and set the bottom again.
Yes. Good point. All right, so make a variable, go into here, grab the value off of this other sprite. Bottom, and then we're just going to directly reset it on our sprite. Cool.
You set the X. I think you want to set.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I'm just going to clear out these guys. All right. Hey, there we go.
Looks great.
Awesome.
That was dangerous.
Risk move there.
Oh.
Losing friends. Cool. So what do you think we should do next? We have a little bit of time left.
I feel like once you get all the apples, like, you know, they should do something positive. I don't know. Maybe they smile.
Do you think they should leave, or is it an added challenge that you have to avoid the people that no longer have apples?
I think it's an added challenge. I mean, so right now there's no real penalty for not hitting an apple.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but we do need a way to win the game.
Maybe you lose a point for every apple that goes off screen that you haven't hit.
Yes, I think that would make this game very hard. We could do, you lose a point for every stack, maybe?
Then you'd be incentivized to get down whole stacks at a time.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the hitting a friend losing 5 points, like might be enough of a penalty. I don't know.
Here, let me first do the thing where once you've cleared all of the apples, then we're just going to do the mirror of, so here, when we hit a friend, we destroy the associated apple. Here, when we clear the apple, we're going to find the associated friend. So this is all the same. And we're just going to have the friend say something so that, you know, they know you did a good job.
You should say, "Oh no, my apples."
What? You're saving them.
I was going to make a pie with that.
There we go.
I like this idea of having just a phrase book.
One more thing to do. So right now you'll notice if I go off screen, and character is gone. So I'm going to set this flag, stay in screen, to be true. Cool. So this way I won't accidentally. Sweet. So do we have time for a boss battle, you think?
Well, I mean, I think we need to figure out a way to win this game.
Yeah.
So right now we just have an endless yep, just an endless game. No way to win or lose, just trading points back and forth.
Yes. So a thing that could happen is once you hit a certain number of points, you have to, you know, do something else. I don't know. A giant bullseye comes on screen and you have to hit the middle of it.
Sure, I like that. So we could do it either with a certain number of points, or we could do it with a certain number of friends.
A certain number of friends cleared, you mean? Or
yeah,
a certain number of friends generated?
Either or. I'm just listing things that can be counted, I guess.
That's true. I think I like generated more because then you don't have to, everyone will eventually survive to the boss battle, and then you can, you know, try to improve your score.
Sorry, your mic cut out there for a second, Shannon. Could you say that?
Okay, yeah. So I think I like after a certain number of enemies generated, because that way everyone will eventually get to the end of the game, and even if your score is like negative, you can play it again to try and get a better score instead of being stuck playing it forever.
Sounds good.
Cool. So, let's see. I'm going to set a count to 0.
Oh, I thought of another way to do this.
Oh.
So we could do it with number of friends, but then it's possible because of the randomness that you could just get a game that has all 3 apples, and so you end up with more points.
Yes, that's true.
But we have these lives that we're choosing each time. So what if we did it, we're going to generate a certain number of lives, and we just decrement from that.
Yes. Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So
this would always ensure that there are at least X number of points available to you. And it means you can have a perfect game, like in bowling. I thought that was weird about bowling.
Okay, so I'm going to set it to something fairly low to start with, and we can adjust the number as we go. So I'm going to say, let's see. If I think for now I'm going to allow for a little bit of wiggle room. So as long as lives count is greater than 0, we're going to generate one more set and then immediately after. So I think it means there will be like, there's the possibility you'll have 1 or 2 more than another run of this game, but for now.
Well, it's going to keep this game from being an esport, but I understand.
So lives count is greater than 0. And we're also going to change the lives count. We're going to subtract lives from it. All right, so now if we watch this, it should generate 3 or 4. Wow. And no more. Yes, cool. So we used up all of our lives. No more friends are being generated. So let's see. I guess at the end of this, we will also want to, I'm going to make a function called just to sort of separate it from this big game update. And we only want to call it once. So if I guess I could use a flag. I don't know. Do either of you guys have neater ways of doing this?
Sounds good to me.
No.
All right, cool. Okay, so I'm going to make a flag to track whether you're in the boss battle or not. And that's going to start as false. And once you've started the boss battle, it'll be true. And so here, if the lives count is less than 0, so we've used up all of our lives, and you are not currently in a boss battle, then we'll start the boss battle. Great. So what are we thinking for this?
Okay, I've given this some thought.
Okay.
What if it was just a giant candy apple?
Okay.
So it would be a stick with an apple on top, but you have to hit the apple part.
Okay. And it's big.
Yeah,
Do you have a
real big.
apple?
Probably has eyes or something. We have a big
boy.
apple, I think, don't we?
No, we only have big burger, donut, pizza.
Ah, I see.
Okay, though. So let's see, 32. I'm just going to double the size of our regular apple.
I like this strategy.
Gets the job done. Oof. All right, and then I'm just going to very quickly fill in the edges of this. We have a circle tool. I'm not using it.
I think it wouldn't help here. I don't know.
Great. There we go. Basically an apple.
I give it a mean old jack-o'-lantern face.
We're just like in the middle of it?
I don't know. I mean, it's
All
a
right.
sentient apple, right?
Those are good, mean eyes.
Should it have fangs? What are we thinking?
Yeah, that'd be menacing.
Cool. And then, let me see. I don't really know.
If apples have eyebrows, they don't, but I like the choice.
This is great.
All right. Cool.
It's good boss apple.
You can't see the mouth. Well, it certainly looks evil. I think we've accomplished that. Let's see. There we go.
I would be scared.
Yeah, definitely.
Ooh, just an idea. In the animation category, there's a bobbing in place animation you could do. And then it's, the apple is bobbing.
Perfect. Okay, so I go into extensions, I click to the animation extension, and it's going to reload the editor and add this animation jar. And so what Daryl's talking about is something that I think we haven't used, which is a movement animation.
We've actually tried to use it many times, and it's always been weird.
Yeah, we're going to give it a shot here because we're not actually moving, so I think that will help. But yeah, so usually what we use is this first animate with frames, and that will open up the animation editor. You can add different frames. Here we're doing animating with fly to center. And so if you click this drop down, there's a list of different movements that you can do. And so we're going to animate it with bobbing in place, and we will loop it so that it is continuously bobbing. Let's just see how this looks. Yeah.
I like it. Gently
I mean,
menacing us.
I think that's how a giant apple would move.
Yeah. I think we've really nailed the authenticity of this experience.
Mm-hmm. I hate
Also
it when you're watching a movie or playing a video game and the giant apples don't seem believable.
Really breaks you out of the world.
Yep.
And I'm just going to put it on the far side of the screen so it's less likely to overlap the player. Let's see. Yeah.
Seems good.
Cool. And the last thing is you're going to have to destroy this apple. Let's see. I think I could okay, let's do destroying it first. So I could do this with sprite data, but I think the easier thing to do is just set a number of lives. Since there's only one boss.
Yeah, sprite data is very useful when you need something on many sprites, but if you've only got one, it's less useful.
Yeah, exactly. So we use sprite data a lot when you have sprites that are the same kind, but need to be slightly different. So here we have all of these apples, but they have different numbers, or you have, sprites that are all the same shape, but you want them to be different colors or something.
Or it could be that they're all the same sprite, but just with various levels of damage.
Yeah, exactly.
You could create a bunch of that all start at 10, but you want to keep track of them separately while the player attacks.
That's essentially what our, friends with apples on their head are, just more damaged.
Cool. So I drag out the overlaps block, and on sprite of kind projectile, our arrow overlaps other sprite of kind boss. We're going to decrease the number of boss lives. And when boss lives equal 0, we're going to end the game. So boss lives equal 0. Game over, win. All right, so I think right now there's no way to lose, and we might have time to add that. There we go. Oh, shoot, need to destroy the arrow. So last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have it maybe also shoot projectiles at you.
Sounds reasonable.
So I'm going to drag out another game update. It's
Maybe worms.
Ooh, yeah. All right. Let's do this very quickly. So I'm going to check to see if you're in a boss battle, which we have a variable for. And if that's true, I'm going to create a projectile from the boss. So set projectile to projectile from the boss with the x negative. So these will come faster than the friends did. And it'll be a worm. So pink with stripes.
I think they're segments, not stripes.
Oh, yeah, yes. And like a big
There might
one,
be striped
right?
worms. I don't know.
I don't think they are segments. Are they?
Really?
I think they're
I
like
don't know.
ridges, right? Or
I don't
I
know.
think I made this look less like a worm. All right, I think we're
Guys.
This is great.
doesn't need. Did you say eyes?
I don't think worms have eyes.
At all?
Yeah, let me search for it. Give me a second.
All right, I'll render this worm blind.
By the way, PSA, slicing a worm in half does not make two worms. You're just murdering a worm. So don't do that. I recently broke this fun fact to somebody.
Oh, going in the wrong direction? Set projectile.
They're of type projectile, so they're damaging the boss.
Ah, yes, you are right. So I need to do a new type.
Yeah, worms don't have eyes.
Set projectile kind to worm, and then when the worm hits the player, what happens? Lose points, I guess. That's
Lose
the
a
thing we're
life?
keeping track of.
Well, because we want to lose the game somehow, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, no, it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, it could be just that, you're going to lose all of your points. And so the point is to, get the highest score you can, since there's a set number. And the boss just kind of exists to lower the number of points you get.
Sure. Yeah, I guess since we don't take away your lives from running into things at any other point in the game, maybe it would make sense to stick with the score. And I'm going to destroy the sprite worm. All right, let's very quickly play through this. So I have some friends. I hit points. Oh, hit a friend. I'm down to 1 point. If I hit by a worm, I will continue to lose points. But if I shoot the boss, game over. High score of -6. Cool.
Nice.
Oh, what is this?
Should we set the lives count to something higher before we finish?
Oh, yes. Good point. What are you thinking? 50?
100?
100? All right.
Looks great.
All right, time to come up with a name, guys.
Yes, very quickly come up with a name.
We need apple puns.
That's not the easiest word to do.
Could be apple related. Could be arrow related.
Could be William Tell related.
Could be William Tell related.
Tell your friends about this game.
I mean, let's see.
Bill-
We're from Microsoft and we're shooting apples. Maybe there's something there.
I don't think we want to wade into those waters. Billy Tell and the Attack of the Apples.
Works for me.
All right, let's do
What,
it.
really? Okay, that was a joke one, but sure.
Or Billy is like, James and the Giant Peach, like Billy and the Giant Apple.
Yeah, all right. Billy and the Giant Apple. There we go. Combining history with classic literature. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Shannon. I'm at Shakao on the MakeCode forums.
I'm Daryl at Darzu on the MakeCode forums.
I'm Richard at Richard on the MakeCode forums.
Cool. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific.